Now when you receive your results back from your soybean cyst nematode test, there are a few points to consider. One is you're going to see an indication of the number of eggs typically per 100 cc's of soil. Now 100 cc's of soil is about half of one of those styrofoam coffee cups. It's about 4 ounces. So it's a little bit, it's around 4 ounces of soil that many times will be processed. The other thing is some labs will indicate a number of cysts per 100 cc's of soil. Now, the point with cyst is, though, that those can be confusing because you don't know how many eggs are in there, and it is possible to get cysts that do not have very many eggs in them. So I like to look at how many eggs per 100 cc's of soil came back in that analysis. In general, for many parts of the country, if you find cyst nematode at all in that soil sample, we're going to recommend that you start into a management program where you're looking at the rotation of resistant varieties and then your non-host crop. For most of the Midwest, we're looking at corn and soybean rotation. So in your corn year, you're reducing that cyst nematode population, and then when you go into your soybean year, if you're growing resistant varieties, you're also reducing that. Now the other thing we talk about is rotation of resistant varieties. So whenever we're looking at that, and we're talking about rotating, many places you're not going to be able to find varieties that are different than 88788 resistant sources. So with that component, make sure you're just at least rotating the varieties and not growing the same variety back on that field 2 years later when it comes back into soybean. So the goal of this whole integrated program of managing cyst nematode with rotation, with resistant varieties, with non-host crops, and then possibly using seed treatments, is to keep that cyst nematode population low. And by keeping that low at a manageable level, you're going to have sustainable soybean production. The goal of sampling is to detect that cyst nematode population hopefully early in your operation, so you're not at a high level, and then you're trying to bring a high population down as opposed to finding a smaller or lower population density and then keeping it low. That's going to be a better approach. The other thing to consider when we're looking at management of cyst nematode is that there is resistance in the nematode, or it's developed the ability to reproduce on some of our common resistant sources, specifically that 88788 resistant source that's so common in our soybean varieties. When we look at that development so far, in many parts of the country, we're not seeing a high level of reproduction in Nebraska on our resistant varieties, but we are starting to detect that, and it is occurring. So you just want to watch and make sure that if you're growing resistant varieties, maybe every 5 or 6 years, not every year for sure, you can go in and take a look and just see how that population's doing, especially if you think you're seeing some yield loss or any type of symptoms associated with elevated cyst populations.